But Anand's first move was not so predictable. D5.
Well, that's never been played in the World Championship before, so if Kasparov predicted that, he's doing well.
It's never been played by Anand before. It's Kasparov's only met it twice before, and once of those was on a TV chat show against David Letterman.
It breaks all the opening rules, because black is bringing his queen out early on. Now, when you're teaching beginners, you always say never bring your queen out early on, because it gets hit. And you notice that white's got a quick lead in development, because he's bouncing pieces off the queen.
And another strange-looking move here, the bishop coming out. Stopping white's bishop from coming to this square, but rather gumming up black's pieces, apparently.
Well, apparently, look at the bishop on f8.
But
that's a committal move, pushing the pawn forward. You see why he wants to do it. He wants to reinforce his knight on e5. But it's very double-edged, because, you know, there's a bit of draft around white's king there.
whenever you push pawns forward, you leave weak squares behind them. But Kasparov clearly feels he has enough space to get away with this.
That's a good challenge, the bishop on f5, I like.
And now black's bishop looks very strange out here. It's got no way back. White only needs to attack it with a pawn, and he'll lose it. But that stops a white pawn coming up here. The opening, in fact, turns out very well for black.
Well, white's moved his white square bishop 3 times, which seems to put him a bit behind in development. He's I don't think Kasparov has a clue what he's doing here.
He's
just moving his bishop today without any plan at all.
And after this move, after taking the black knight, he offered a draw, which Anand thought about.
Yeah, Kasparov said he was surprised that Anand even thought about it at this stage. If he'd have been confident, he said he would have replied immediately and just carried on.
And black's a little bit better. Black has chances of getting a knight to this square, which would give him a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, because the white pawn on f4 is rather weak.
See, black's pawn can chase the white knight back, but if black ever gets his knight to a comparable square, you get that weakness created by this pawn move. So black is undoubtedly a little bit better in this position. Kasparov trying to create play on the queen side. And that nice little manoeuvre by the black knight, it's not doing anything at the moment, but there it is, it's coming, it's been heading single-mindedly towards this square. Now, if white does nothing, black will just gradually take over the position. So, a little nudge on the queen side.
White does have a bit more space.
This is the move of the game. You suddenly move your knight where you can't move it. That knight can just be taken by the black pawn. No, I suppose the idea is if the pawn takes the knight, it opens the diagonal for white's bishop to take the rook. I think white would probably recapture on this square first with a pawn, attack a black knight, take the rook next move.
I think this is just Kasparov trying to randomise it. He realises he's being slowly outplayed, so by throwing the knight in, he's really setting the game on fire. If pawn takes knight, then white would recapture with the f-pawn, I think, immediately. And I was analysing this position, and it looks like Kasparov has some very good counterplay. It's amazing he can just give away a piece.
That knight almost without thinking. You know,
that's why you're not there, Bill.
Kasparov said it was the best move afterwards. But Anand feels that the knight's going to have to go back sometime. So rather than enter into this randomness, he moves his queen away. And now, a really vigorous move. There's a real fight for the initiative going on here. Pawn coming up. And now, when the knight recaptures, the knight is threatening this pawn.
So white's got a lot of pawn weaknesses. You see the pawns on h2, f4, d4. They're all sort of, hopelessly weak. But he does have this attack against the black king, especially the f6 square.
And now the rook's coming in. Well, I think there is a threat to take this bishop.
And then bishop takes f6 afterwards. It's devastating for white.
Threat to this pawn as well. On the left. It's my touch screen is not reacting to.
Yeah, rook c7 is a really good fighting move.
Now the knight coming back to attack the bishop. Bishop attacks the rook. Now all white has to do is get this bishop out of the way, and his knight can come in here with mate. So, black's next move. Pawn up. If white takes with the pawn, then takes with the bishop. Knight in there, mate. And by now the spectators and the commentators were getting rather overexcited, and their shouting seeped through into the supposedly soundproof booth.
Madness. But it's madness on the
It's
board
quite
as well. That's what's so funny about it. It is just madness here. Like, no one has a clue what's going on.
Well, ignoring the attack on his own bishop, Kasparov moved his bishop out, exchanging a pair of bishops, and queens came off as well.
Yeah, black can't capture the bishop because obviously rook would capture the bishop on g7 and give mate pretty quickly against the black king. And Kasparov's done incredibly well. He's done a real Houdini trick here.
The position has just totally changed. We had a position that was much better for black, and suddenly an exchange of queens, and it turned completely. The trouble is that look, there's a black rook attacking the white knight now, and the bishop defends it. The trouble is black has now found that this
It's not clear where Anand goes wrong in this game. He'd look like he had such a great position.
should have taken the knight. I told you. Never refuse free gifts from a world champion. Now the rook coming in, which does at least have the benefit of saving this pawn, but after white's next move, pawn coming up.
I think this is a sign there that Anand's in terrible trouble because the key now is the bishop on g7, which has just nowhere to go, and it can't even drop back to f8 because then the pawn on f6 would fall. So black's almost playing a full piece down in this position.
He's trying to get activity with a rook, but Kasparov's rook just came over, attacks this pawn. There's no decent defence to that pawn. Black's bishop is completely stifled. White's knight is dominating this side of the board. Black's tied, completely passive. There's nothing useful for his rook to do. His knight's tied to the defence of this pawn. He's going to lose this pawn. The position really is quite hopeless. With his last move, with that rook move, that was White's 40th move. White had reached the time control. Black still had his 40th move to play. That's the last move for Black before the time control. And the position really is not very good. He's trying to get activity with the rook. He's attacking a bishop, which is defended anyway by the knight.
You can't play endgames a piece down, which is effectively what Anand does here.
What are you doing there?
Very strange.
Very bad behaviour.
Sort of leaning over to look at Anand's score sheet to make sure that that he's right about the 40 moves having been played. The Yugoslavs used to cheat like that. Various Yugoslavs, not all the Yugoslavs. Some Yugoslav grandmasters used to have a habit of writing down an extra move on the score sheet.
Well, that happened to me last year. I lost the game because I thought I'd made 40 moves and I lost on time and I was cheerfully sat there.
There was a great Yugoslav player who used to do this trick where, and when you got to move 39, it looked like 40. He would expose his short score sheet freely, get up and walk off, and then when his opponent lost on time, he'd sit back, rush back to the board and tell him.
A German did it against me.
Yeah, Kasparov's taking that pawn. And now White has a passed pawn in the centre.
You can tell he's doing well the way he stomps off as well.
Stomps off,
He's so pleased with himself.
Leaving Anand sitting there to survey this wreck of a position.
Well, Anand's a full pawn down. His bishop can't move. Kasparov's got all the activity.
But both players had been short of time from about move 30 onwards in this game. They'd had about a minute left per move compared with the normal 3 that are allocated. They'd had to play the last moves in a hurry, and in that space of rushed moves, Anand just saw his position just completely disintegrate.
It's an odd feeling when you've reached the time control and you realise in the last couple of minutes you've thrown away the last 4 hours of play. It really is about, and that's exactly what Anand's thinking there. I've thrown it all away.
You can see it all on his face. Very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he resigns.